Spring in the Northeast means striped bass. Some of the first fish getting back to our water are schoolie stripers, and they're a lot of fun to target, especially when you're trying to get over cabin fever, which we know we're all going to have. So a lot of times what happens is guys go out, they want to get on these spring stripers, and they want to do it the right way. So we've got some tips to help you do that. Spring striped bass is all about selecting the right rod, the right reel, and the right line. A typical rod would be a 6.5 or 7 foot light spinning rod. This reel is actually a Conquer 5000 by Penn. It's loaded with 30-pound fire line, even though some anglers go as little as 14-pound in the braided lines. And we really like the braided lines for this because they have a very low diameter, almost no stretch, and you can really impart a lot of good action to the lure just by simple rod twitches, because everything you do with the rod is absolutely going to affect the lure. Once we've got our rod, our reel, and our line figured out, we're going to add a 3-foot length of Fluorocarbon Leader. Typically Berkley Big Game is one of our favorites. We might use 30-pound or 20-pound, and the length is kind of important. We choose about 3 feet because we don't want to have the join passing through our guides when we cast. But we like enough length so we can wrap that leader on our arm and control a fish at boat side while we reach over with a fish flipping tool and gently flip the fish off the hooks. Particularly good idea when the fish has a mouthful of trebles. This outfit is really all you need for spring stripers. One of the things that's really important about targeting spring stripers is you have to choose the right lures. A lot of times, because the water's so cold, the fish are a little lethargic, and you're going to use very slow retrieves. So it's very important that you choose lures that you can retrieve slowly. They'll still give you very good action. Our typical outfit for throwing these lures is going to be a 7-foot spinning rod, maybe even a 6.5, loaded with 14 to 30-pound fire line because it's going to be resistant to wind knots, and we're throwing light lures. But we also want to make sure that we choose exactly the right lures. This particular lure is a striper slider. It actually comes from Guide's Choice. It's actually a lipless swimmer. The nice thing about this lure is it's going to ride on top, and you can give it a lot of very gentle tugs back and forth, get a lot of splashing action without much forward motion, keeping it in a hit zone. This is probably one of my favorite choices for a topwater lure in the spring. Sometimes your presentation is going to require a much larger lure. So Guide's Choice also has this Bunker Boy. This has got a very big profile. This is a swimming lure. And the nice thing about it is it has a lot of action. So at a slow retrieve, this is still going to look very good. But it does have a big profile, and it does kind of imitate a bunker. It comes in a couple of colors. And what we're trying to do is just make that bunker retrieve. 2 or 3 foot sweeps, a little bit of jerk and stop. This is a very effective lure. Finally, sometimes we need to go back to our traditional old school swimming lure. This is a typical narrow swimming lure. It's really meant to look like another finfish, maybe a spearing, something that's common in the spring, but we also have some herring around, and a lot of fish are about this length and size. The nice thing about this is it doesn't have much of a profile, and you can work this a lot of different ways, and it's probably the most versatile lures. With a slow retrieve, this lure is going to stay near the top. Speed it up a little bit, and you can drive this lure 2 or 3 feet deep. Now, all the lures we've talked about so far are really surface lures. To learn more about what other lures to use and about this tip, visit our website at anyangling.com.